Everybody wants major donors, but most people lose them before the second gift. Why? Because they don't realize there are only two types of donors, and both deserve more than just a receipt.
Struggling to keep your donors? Wondering why they're walking away? At Dobson Philanthropic, we help nonprofits turn donor loss into lasting loyalty with a system that works. Grow, thrive, win. Visit fundraisingisdead.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to Fundraising is Dead, the podcast where we expose the broken fundraising systems that are failing you and show you what actually works. Today, I'm talking about donors and the fact that really there are only two types of donors. And if you treat them differently, it will destroy your development strategy. Let me tell you how I first started learning about this. Back in the 60s, when my parents' career first started taking off, my dad's career first started taking off, before radio, his books and his speaking was doing well, they decided to give above and beyond their normal tithe. And they chose two colleges to give $500 to. I think today that's a major gift. I would categorize that as a major gift. You get an unsolicited $500 gift. If you adjust for inflation, that's about $5,000 today. So that is a very major first-time unsolicited gift. And the two colleges they gave to, one where my dad's dad, my grandpa, was a professor of art, and the other one is where my parents graduated from, Pasadena College. Today it's Point Loma, but this is a long time ago, Pasadena College. They sent them both $500. Pasadena College sent back a form letter. A thank you form letter. I don't think it was signed by anybody. In fact, I'm sure it wasn't signed by anybody. I just heard the story again. The college where my grandpa was a professor at, Mid-America, the president of that college wrote my dad a handwritten letter recalling a recent conversation he had had with my grandpa and how much it meant to him and how much they appreciated the donation. Well, it was a no-brainer. My parents took both donations and started giving all of the money to Mid-America, and they stopped giving to Pasadena College. Now, I'm sorry, my dad hates it when I tell that story because he thinks I'm going to embarrass somebody that was working back in the day, and he tries to make up for it. He's like, well, my dad didn't work there. They couldn't write that kind of a letter. And I'm like, okay, one, I don't care. I got to teach what's going on, and I've got to teach you the right way. And this is what I think about that situation. I mean, you couldn't open a yearbook? Here's what I know about my parents, just a couple of things. I know that my dad was captain of the tennis team sophomore, junior, and senior year. I know my mom, in her senior year, she was homecoming queen, queen of the court. Um, and by the way, one of your alma mater, one of your alumni, is doing pretty well writing books and traveling around the country. I mean, you couldn't pick up a yearbook. You couldn't find someone that knew Jim and Shirley Dobson just a few years after their graduation. No, it was thoughtless. They sent a form letter, and what happened? They stopped getting what would today be $5,000. But Mid-America, instead of just getting five, started getting $10,000. That's why it's important to understand the two types of donors. And the two types are the seed donor and the sacrificial donor. Let's start with the seed donor. The seed donor doesn't give out of lack, they give out of excess, and they watch what you do. And in my experience, a seed donor has at least 10 times what their initial donation is. If they donated $500, they have $5,000. If they donated $5,000, they've got $50,000. I know that sounds like kind of a pie in the sky thing. This is my experience. I've got a ton of stories to prove it, but I think the seed donor has about 10 times what they initially give. But they're trying to figure out, what are you going to do with it? They're watching you. Will you waste that money? Will you thank them? Will they feel like a partner or an ATM? Will you send them a form letter or a handwritten note? Will you call and ask for money or call and tell how much it meant to you? That is the seed donor. The sacrificial donor is different. They are giving out of lack. They will go without something to donate to you. Both believe in your cause. Both believe in it enough to donate to you. One believes in it so much, they're going to go without something so that you can continue doing that work. By the way, that's what working for a nonprofit means. It means people look at the work that you do and they think it's so important, but they know they can't do it. They've got their own job. And so, in lieu of that, they're going to donate to you so you can do that important work. The sacrificial donor is thinking, well, instead of going out to eat 3 times this month, maybe it'll be 2 or 1. Or maybe I don't upgrade this or that. They're giving out of their budget. They know exactly where that money is coming from. I have friends that work at Compassion. I can tell you Compassion didn't lose a ton of donors during COVID. They didn't lose us. I lost my job and all my future speaking events on March 13th. They canceled all events. The contract I had ended, all my future events ended. That's just what happens. So, back to the sacrifice and the seed. Let me tell you this. When my dad parted ways with Focus on the Family in 2011, their annual budget was $163 million a year. That's how much money they were bringing in. $163 million a year. And I've already told you, none of the reps or my dad were ever asking individuals for money. People were giving of their own free will. That's what they were doing. They were giving of their own free will, and the budget got up to $163 million a year. Everyone wants to know how. What's the secret? I can tell you the secret. Early on at Focus on the Family, actually, it wasn't that early. It was in the 80s. I mean, 100 million people had seen the film series by that point. So it was big. But in the early days, they received a check for $17.83. Now, if you know anything about donations, an odd number should trigger something. People give in even numbers. They give $5, $10, $25, $100, $500. Rarely do they give $513.24. That should trigger something in your development department. Why? Because it's weird. Why is that number there? Because it's a percentage of something. It's a portion of something. That's what I talk about seed. Maybe it's a portion of their inheritance. Maybe they divided it up 10 ways. That's all the money they have. And yours is a tenth of that. That odd number is a tenth of that. Or it's a percentage of their foundational gift or their charity gift or whatever it is. But the odd number should say something. So Focus gets a check for $17.83. And most organizations send back the thank you tax receipt, right? It's under 20 bucks. But there was a note included in that letter. And this is the story. How else do you say it? It came from a very poor family. They just didn't have any extra money. They were not well off. But they had heard Focus needed money. I don't remember what had gone on. My dad rarely talked about finances from the radio, but at some point he had said they could use your help and support. And this family gathered together, and in their lack, in their house, they said, what can we go without so that we can help Focus on the Family? They felt that the radio program and my dad's books and teaching had helped them, and they wanted to give back, but they didn't have any extra money. They had nothing else. They knew where every penny was going. And as a family, they made a decision that for 6 months, they would go without boxed cereal and they would eat bulk bagged cereal. And after 6 months, they had $17.83. And that's what they sent to Focus on the Family. And that is an amazing gift. My dad says all gifts are too good to be true. It's too good to be true. It really is. That somebody would think about the work that we do, the work that you do, the work that I do, and say, you know what? I don't have anything. I got nothing, but I want to help. And so I'm going to eat generic bagged cereal instead of boxed cereal, and I'm going to save for 6 months, and I'm going to send you $17.83. We cannot ignore the sacrifice It's not the dollar amount, it's the person behind the gift. It's the person behind the gift. How do I even know that story? That's the answer to how Focus on the Family got to be $163 million a year. How do I know that story? I mean, here's the truth. Focus on the Family has its own zip code. They have a sea of people answering phone calls and mail. They have an automatic mail opener. And then someone goes through all of it, and it's a conveyor system. They're going through it like crazy. I've seen this process. But someone pulled that out like they did every single donation. And they went, no way, this is a huge deal. And the person that opens the mail brought it to their manager. And that manager read it and went, no way, and brought it to their director. And that director went, oh my goodness, and brought it to their vice president, who brought it to the executive vice president, who brought it to my dad. If you want different results, you got to be willing to do different things. That letter was framed and placed at Focus on the Family with a plaque saying, this is why we do what we do. Got to treat everybody the same. The sacrifice is just as important as the major gift. It is. I was working with an organization a number of years ago, and they have I now know the whole story. They were doing an event, and a couple started giving $70 a month, which triggered a warning. Not a warning. It triggered a notice. And you go, why'd $70 trigger a notice? Because the event that happened, they were only asking $35 a month. The pitch was $35 a month at this particular event. In their CRM, they take our advice, they hashtag their events, they know where the donations come from. And at this event, a couple gave double. They gave $70 a month. And they thanked them like they should. They sent them a letter, wrote a little note at the bottom. Man, we appreciate it. That couple gave for 4 years $70 a month. It's a big deal. Over 4 years, that's $3,360. That is a major donation. But what happened after 4 years? Because they were diligent, because they were consistent, because they treated them like family, and they showed the impact of that double donation, the one that stood out because they were giving double what they were asked for, out of the blue, that couple gave them $20,000. What? I have the math down in here. What is that? Where is it? Da, 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 da. Oh, brother, I don't even have the good math. $20,000 is around 6 times what that 4 years of donation is. I don't even know what the math is. 20,000 divided by 70, the actual initial donation. And that couple has not stopped giving that 20,000 now. It's been 3 years, $60,000, which is about 18 times the initial 4-year run. How much is 60,000 divided by 70? I don't know. You do the math. But when I say seed donors have about 10 times what their initial gift is, I definitely understand what I'm talking about. By the way, it's such a great story. This isn't a story about a big ask that resulted in a big donation. This is a story about thanking people, treating them with dignity and respect, and telling them how much they meant to them, and what a big deal it was to give above and beyond what they even asked for. And 4 years in, this couple gives a massive donation. And they were so grateful they kept giving this donation. That's a good story. And you can do that. You can definitely do it. If you want a donor to give big before you treat them well, rarely will you get a big gift. If you overlook the sacrifice or the seed, you will lose both of them. I'll give you a pro tip. I know it's a pro tip because not 1 in 100 is doing this, and I know it's a pro tip because not 1 in 100 will start doing this, even though it will have a direct impact on future giving. Everyone sends the same thank you when you give an online donation. They send the thank you tax receipt. The pro tip: split them. Split them apart. Don't send a receipt with a thank you. When you send a receipt with a thank you, you train your donors that your relationship is transactional, not relational. It's transactional. You gave, I thank. Thank them first. A couple days later, a week later, send them the receipt. They don't need it right away anyway. Split that, and you're saying, hey, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Don't ask in the thank you email. And then later on, send the tax receipt. Then stick them in your funnel. Do whatever you want to do after that. But the pro tip: split that up. You will see a direct impact on donations and giving. You can't ignore the sacrifice or the seed because both donors are telling you the exact same thing. It says, I believe in you. I believe in the work that you're doing. I trust you. Don't make me regret it. Donations are a sign of trust. How you respond tells them what kind of relationship you want with them. So, here's the playbook for the week. Go look at your last 20 donations and just see how they were thanked. And if it's a double receipt, send an extra note. Doesn't matter the donation. See if there's an odd number in one of those 20 donations. Then try to figure out where it came from if there is. But find the last 20 donations, send them a note. You'll be the only one. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you again for another episode next week.
Want to build donor relationships that last? At Dobson Philanthropic, we teach the proven systems behind the success of ministries like Focus on the Family. Stop losing donors. Start building a thriving, sustainable future. Visit fundraisingisdead.com.